it from the 11 is under center. Najee gets the call. And 3 tight ends on the field, and that pile moved. It's still moving. Not over the 50. And he broke through. Up over the 25 to the 30 to the 31. A 20-yard run by Najee Harris.
How about that, Billy? That is just leg drive and heart right there. Najee Harris, they just kept rambling and rambling. He kept his feet churning, man. What a great job of using that body strength.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. The Steelers back home in Pittsburgh after a 16-10 win over the Bengals in Cincinnati. They now sit at 7-4, and a lot of angry runs by Najee Harris yesterday. The Steelers offense looked a little different. We're going to discuss that, but let's welcome in our panelists to do so. We have Merril Hoge, former Steelers legend. Also, you can hear him on DVE, and Mike Prisuta of the DVE Morning Show and Steelers Radio Network, and Shelby Cassesse, our Steelers.com contributor. Merril, we will start with you. You saw that run by Najee, 99 yards on the ground. What was your biggest takeaway from what the Steelers offense did yesterday?
Well, they obviously foundationally stuck with what they've been doing the last 3 weeks, and that's building on their running game. Where you saw was a greater emphasis to be a pro style of runner. You know, what I saw with Najee was what you have to do in the National Football League. The National Football League is not about dancing. It's not about jumping over people. It's about running with a purpose, making a quick decision, a decisive decision, and then run with great power. When you do those type of things, you get a yard here, 2 yards there, and then all of a sudden you pop it for 8, you pop it for 20. And I saw Najee really evolve as a runner, a pro runner. I mean, it's not college anymore. And to see what he did yesterday, and you could tell that, you know, these players have taken some ownership on. You know, you lose your offensive coordinator, but that is not where all the problems lie. You know, players are still responsible for how you execute and how you play. And I think Najee may have been the most outspoken one. And I thought that, you know, he not only made some noise after the game last week, he now put his money where his mouth is, and he came out and played like a pro. And he elevated his game, and he complimented what they did up front. I thought the offensive line had one of their better games that they have had, and those backs complimented him, especially Najee. And now this just has to keep going on because it is really the thing that'll help them win the division. It'll be the foundation of how they win the division through that running game because it permeates over to the other side of the ball so well.
Triv, and it also helps with time of possession, their best of the year, 37 minutes and 17 seconds. What did you make of being able to hear TJ Watt after the game, you know, really profusely giving the offense props for keeping them off the field a lot and letting them be able to do what they do?
Well, I will tell you this. I say this all the time. At the end of the season, there's one statistic that always stands out for the best defense in football. They play the least amount of snaps. I mean, that's how great defenses really become great, as that offense does it, shoulders the load, and keeps them off the field as much. Because every offense in this league, regardless if you're the number 1 offense or the 31st offense, you have pro players, you have pro coaches. And at any given Sunday, you can't sleep on an offense. You can give up a ton of yards the more you play. So the less you play, the more effective you're going to be. And I will tell you this, there's so many new players on the defensive side that they've been exciting to watch because, you know, numbers that you're not used to seeing, you know, like 38 in the box, you know, Walker. I mean, he's been outstanding. 17 at safety, Thomas. I mean, he's been outstanding. I mean, as a whole, and even the young guys, 95, Benton has been just a beast up front. But collectively, all 11 guys are playing such great defense right now, and they're fresh. And the more that you do that, the better they're going to get throughout the season.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to the running game for a second because I think one thing that is fairly obvious, at least to me, Broderick Jones has been starting at right tackle for 4 games, and the Steelers have averaged 174 yards a game on the ground through those 4 games. The Ravens entered Week 12 number 1 in the NFL in rushing at 155.1 yards per game. So for 4 games at least, the Steelers have run the ball at a level that far exceeds what the best team in the league at it has done all season. We keep showing that move the pile run by Najee Harris, and it's a little peek at the schematic tweak that they used a lot against the Bengals, the 3 tight end thing. You see number 80 number 83 and number 88 all in the game at the same time. Not the first time they've tried that this year, but I thought it was their most extensive use of it. And the players I talked to about it after the game credit that formation for keeping the defense off balance, because the Steelers think they can run out of it or throw out of it. And then that one sideline run by Najee Harris, to Merril's point about being a professional runner, he had a chance to go out of bounds and he chose to hit the defensive back. That's some pretty cool intangible stuff. So a little personnel, a little scheme, a little want to, and it's all paying dividends.
It just really felt like this offense turned a corner in the passing game as well. They were including things that I just felt that the offense had desperately needed. They were targeting the middle of the field. They were getting chunk yardage. They were spreading the ball out. I think 8 different receivers showed up on the scoring sheet this morning, and I think all but one had double-digit receiving yards. They were going up and down the field rather than side to side, which I thought was a big difference for them. 16 points at the end of the day is not always going to get it done, and I think they're going to progress from here just because they did do so much that I think was a turn-the-corner moment. 16 points won't always love that in the final score, but I think if they can continue doing what they did yesterday, those points will come.
I think guys too, especially stalling in the red zone early. They only finished 1 for 4, but the third down efficiency, I thought that's where they really shined. And to Shelby's point, attacking the middle of the field, a career day for Pat Freiermuth, who you see there, 9 catches, 120 yards. Let's take a listen to what he had to say after the game.
Yeah, kind of just playing off of what they were showing defensively. Felt like they, were showing a lot of middle field open, coverages where we need Pat to, step up and be big for us, which he was. Had him in some one-on-one routes too to move the chains. I think Pat, had an unbelievable game. Really happy for him. Battling back off an injury, a hamstring, which isn't easy. So it's great to have 88 out there.
Merril, the Bengals didn't seem to be able to find a way to stop 88. Is this something they can use moving forward?
Well, sure. Now, first of all, not everybody's going to run the same type of coverages that Cincinnati did. And Cincinnati runs what we call a cover 2 buck or just cover 2. And that's vulnerable down the middle. And that's where you want to attack it. And they did that with Freiermuth. Now, you look at the Cardinals, they don't play a lot of that. But that doesn't mean you can't attack there. You got a tight end that's a valuable weapon. So you have to find different ways to attack the middle of the field, regardless of what the coverage is. They may not be the explosive plays that you saw there based on some of the things that they do, but you can still attack there. And once you attack there, it just makes it so much easier to attack the perimeter. If you notice the game, if they attacked there early and then they went to the perimeter later, and that's what that gives you. That gives you some luxuries, because defenses don't like that. They don't like big plays down the middle of the field, so they try to do things to nullify that, and then they create opportunities for you on the perimeter. So they will. I think they continue to do that. Will it be the exact same thing? No, because the Cardinals don't do the exact same thing Cincinnati did. Cincinnati did play some coverages that make them vulnerable for that, and the Steelers took advantage of it. And every time they took advantage of it, they got big plays from it. So it's good to see that they want to work their tight end, because I think everything builds off of the tight end, especially when you have a tight end like Freiermuth.
Yeah, that was one of the areas where I thought Kenny Pickett really excelled, noticing when it was cover 2 and noticing when it was single high. They effectively used that middle that Merril just referenced throughout the game. But in the second half, when they needed a play on, I think it was 3rd and 9, the Bengals went single high safety, and Pickett attacked down the sideline with George Pickens, 43 yards, and the Steelers ended up getting the field goal that gave them a 6-point lead instead of a 3-point lead. I thought Pickett, at least he looked to me to be much more sure of himself in terms of what he was dealing with, and I think that allowed at least maybe help with his accuracy and his decision making and all that fluidity that everybody kept talking about. They were, to Shelby's point, 16 points are not going to be enough down the road, but it was enough Sunday, and it was enough to keep the defense resting and on the sidelines because of the time of possession, and that helped ensure that 16 points was ultimately enough against the Bengals. That last clip that we just showed there too, I think is another key point. Moving Kenny Pickett out of the pocket. There are times this year where he's been very uncomfortable in the pocket, and he's maybe bailed out of the pocket too quickly before a play has had a chance to develop. Now you do a little play action boot. Hey, get him out on the wing, move his spot, keep the pass rush guessing, keep the quarterback moving, keep the ball moving forward.
You know, I really thought that the Steelers made such a statement with their first offensive snap. It's play action, right up the middle, chunk yardage to Pat Freiermuth. It's not something that we've seen a lot of. And again, that's what they saw in their preparation. When they're looking at the Bengals, they saw that could be available. And I'm assuming based on the Steelers' previous tendencies, the Bengals maybe didn't have too much of a thought that that's how they were going to start coming out guns a-blazing. And so when you talk about Pat Freiermuth's contribution, you have that center of the field, of course, but you know, we talked so much earlier in the season about when Deontay Johnson came back. Okay, how much is that going to help George Pickens? Well, a lot, because you have to divide and conquer when you're opposing defenses. So you ask, what's the contribution of Pat Freiermuth? How helpful can that be? Well, you just add a third person who can give meaningful contribution, and that just makes things even more difficult for opposing defenses.
Let's take a look at the AFC North standings. Last week, it felt like after the loss to the Browns, the sky was falling, but a lot can change in 1 week. It's the National Football League. There's still 6 weeks left to go. The Ravens beating the Chargers last night, but now the Steelers and Browns, same record. But Merril, it just feels like they're headed in very different directions due to the loss in game of their quarterback and Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Missi, I say teams win championships. Defenses don't win them. There's no defense ever played 60 minutes. There's no quarterback that plays 60 minutes. So people that say that, actually they're missing the whole concept of winning a championship, and that is teams winning. They're wounded at the quarterback position, and that's a bad place to be wounded. The offense, for the Steelers' perspective, is complementing what you have going on the defensive side right now. And really the opponents that they have to face in the last 6 games, they have a chance to win 11 games. You win 10, 11 games, you not only got a chance to get in the playoffs, but you got a good chance to win a division. And really, in a sense, they have some control of that, because they have so many divisional games. So, and the way they're running the football, I got to keep going back to that, because one of the most critical aspects to win in our league consistently, you have to control the tempo. It is the most, second to turnovers, the most important aspect of winning consistently. And you do that by running the football. It helps you play call. It helps you set up throwing the football. It helps your defense. We've already talked about those things. So as long as they keep doing that and building on that, and they have done that, over the last month. I mean, they're starting to play their best football when it matters most. It's so hard to play great football around September and maintain that all the way into January and February. And no coach will tell you this, but if you wanted to script it and go, hey, when would we want it? We'd like to win some games but not play well. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the year, we start playing better and we start putting things together, which is what's happening right now. So ideally, they're coming together at the right time, and they have enough wins to control their destiny into the playoffs.
And December football starts on Sunday when the Arizona Cardinals come to town. We're going to take a quick break here on the Extra Point. When we return, we'll talk about the Steelers' run defense. We'll be right back.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
3 receivers to the right. He's back looking left. Throws that pass. Intercepted at the 15-yard line. Trenton Thompson. He's out of bounds at the 20. But man, Trenton, the one-year man from San Diego State, former Giant, picked it off in front of Jamar Chase. And the Steelers have denied the Bengals a scoring up.
Oh, that's just a huge job by Trenton Thompson, who undercuts the route on Jamar Chase standing by the first down marker. What a play by Trenton Thompson.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Time to talk about the Steelers' defense. Merril, there are some new faces who have made great contributions dealing with some injuries. Trenton Thompson, just one example. What are you seeing from some of those new faces?
Well, the thing that I noticed right off the bat, Missy, is it doesn't appear that they're all new. Because usually when they're new, people are missing assignments. They don't play well together. There's confusion. There's not a lot of things that you can do. You got to really simplify things, and you don't see that. That intersection by Thompson, he's a safety. Well, that's not where he ended up. He ended up at the corner position, and they rolled the corner deep over the safe as the safety. And they're mixing coverages up. Shoot, 38 Walker was the deep safety on one of those coverages on that play. So they're doing a mixture of things. It's disturbing to the quarterback, and even a young guy like that. You know, he was confused. He didn't see that safety drop down. That's why he threw the ball to the flat. You know, he didn't even see it. And then the way they're pressuring, you know, they're doing a lot of things with pressures, just not with their edge guys, but with schematics that you just don't see. I was talking to Art Rooney about it, and I was like, I don't think I've been as excited to watch a defense in years since this defense, just because all of these new players, and they don't play like that. It is, and they get better too, by the way, you know, but so they're a force. You know, people don't know their names, but they are a force, and you better be buttoned up across the board, not just your quarterback, your protections, your wide receiver, all your hots, because it's hard to run the ball on them, number one, and then two, if you got to throw it on them, you don't know what's coming your way.
Yeah, Thompson's a really interesting story. He actually had a very good training camp, but at the time they were loaded at the safety position, so he ends up on the practice squad. But what do you do when you're on the practice squad? You practice. You are with the team, and then your opportunity comes. And I thought that Terrell Austin's defensive coordinator made a great point last week about Thompson's readiness. You know, the Micah Fitzpatrick injury happens, and all of a sudden he starts getting elevated and ends up playing in these games. This is a guy who had played, if memory serves, 12 special team snaps for the Giants last year. And then in the Green Bay game, he plays his first 7 NFL defensive snaps in the dime, and his role's just been getting bigger ever since. It's a great story about, hey, when opportunity knocks, answer. And he has answered, and he has played well. Michael Walker is an NFL veteran guy in Atlanta, but he only signed on with the Steelers on October the 30th. He's done a remarkable job. But the guy that I think is probably still not getting enough credit, even though he had 15 tackles in Cleveland, Landon Roberts. Think about this for a minute, guys. He is their third option as the inside linebacker in the dime, a guy who can play the run and play the pass. They've been looking for this guy since Ryan Shazier suffered his career-ending injury. And they thought they had 2 of them, Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander. Turns out they needed 3. And Landon Roberts, to me, has delivered way beyond expectations. Maybe my expectations were too low, but he has really stepped up these last couple of weeks and kept his defense from having the wheels fall off.
I think, truthfully, the best defenses are true ensemble casts. And you're going to have a few stars. Of course, TJ Watt's the star here, Minka Fitzpatrick, who they've struggled without at times, giving up chunk plays. Alex Highsmith's, the Cam Haywards. Yeah, you're going to have those, but you really need to have these guys outside of that performing. And they've done such a great job having this rotating cast of newcomers inserted into the defense week after week. That can't be easy from a communication perspective. And they've seemed to figure it out. It's often bend, don't break. You're often getting down into the red zone, but then they walk away with just giving up 3 points. So they walk away with a turnover deep into the red zone. And those things all seem to pan out week after week where it is this bend, don't break. They're able to do it with all of these people who are rotating through. And then you have guys like Nick Herbig getting a sack, Trenton Thompson, of course, with his interception. Landon Roberts was mentioned. These are names that weren't necessarily well known in the preseason or weren't, of course, on the Steelers roster if you're looking outside of that to start the year. And the fact that they've been able to maintain their defensive identity week in and week out, they've been able to go outside of the TJ Watts and the Alex Highsmiths and the Cam Haywards to find their playmakers. That's what's going to sustain this defense even through all of these injuries that have occurred this year.
Well, speaking of Herbig, did anybody else get a Bud Dupree flashback on that sack? back to the Miami game. Man, did he close ground in a hurry.
Yes, he did.
They kept showing that clip here on the video here, and Max Starks and I were right there, and we both just started laughing as it happened because he just came out of nowhere, and he was a man on a mission, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Merril, the run defense. Cam Hayward's back from his groin injury. Keanu Benton, someone you've mentioned, who's just continued to improve. What are you seeing from that unit and how they're able to play that role of helping the defense as well?
Well, Misty, obviously that's where it starts. And I think that, everybody knows how great Cam Hayward is. And once he got back into shape, even when he, his first few snaps when he came back off injury, he was a significant impact. He just had to get some endurance to play the entire game. But when you look at Benton, Larry O doesn't get enough credit. I mean, he is constantly a disruptor. He may not make tackles, but man, he disrupts plays and gets it so other people can. And that's where it starts. It doesn't matter what defense we're talking about. If your guys in the trenches are not disruptors, they are not, and they are hard to move. It's going to be easy to run on you. And that has been what has changed with it. You cannot move those guys. They are disruptive things. You got two outside linebackers that get credit for rushing the quarterback, and they're outstanding at that. But this is what makes them complete football players. They set the edge. They get to the ball carrier. They make great plays in the running game. They make great tackle. I've been Highsmith a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was against Cleveland. I'm telling you, if he doesn't come across the field and make the tackle, I mean, they're out the door. They're out the door, and nobody's touching that runner, and he makes tackles. And their box players have been outstanding, the inside guys. I'm glad Mike mentioned Roberts, because I tell you this, that guy, he started in Cleveland. And I'm going to tell you this, Cleveland wouldn't even put him in on the third down because he was somewhat of a liability. He goes to Miami. They didn't want to play him there because he's somewhat of a liability. And the Steelers now get in a position where they have to play him. He has made more open field tackles, especially in the Cleveland game. The way he plays the run, he is a force. And then how he is playing in the passing game. That's why I go back how exciting these guys are. And, well, they play together. These guys are playing better than all of these starters that they had lost by week 4. There's no they do not get lost in translation. They communicate well. People get to where they've got to go. They played fluid as a back end, and they do a lot of exotic things too, things that you would not think all these new faces could do, and they execute it beautifully.
All right,
let's talk about those plays in the flat that Landon Roberts made, tackling David Njoku, tackling Kareem Hunt. I talked to him a couple of days after the game, and I said, I didn't know you could cover the pass. And he said, hey, all you had to do was ask.
All right, let's take a look as we head into week 13. The Steelers coming home for 2 home games. The remaining schedule, just quickly, your thoughts when you look at this. Shelby, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I look at this schedule and I feel confident. I feel confident with the way the Steelers just played yesterday, and I feel confident with the schedule ahead. As I've said before, you can make an argument for every single one of these games that the Steelers could win. These next 2 games should be, dare I say it, easier wins for the Steelers. And maybe a couple of weeks ago, I'm thinking a split with Cincinnati is best case scenario. Now I'm thinking a sweep of Cincinnati based on all the injuries that they're dealing with right now. And then I look at that last game, that Ravens game, and I look at the Ravens schedule the rest of the way. They still have the Dolphins, the Jaguars, and the 49ers on their schedule. They have a tough road ahead. They're playing really good football, but they have the significantly more difficult schedule compared to the Steelers. I am thinking that last game against the Baltimore Ravens could be for all the marbles in the AFC North, and I think the Steelers are in a really, really good position when you compare the 2 schedules to even take this division, which is really saying something considering at the start of this year, a lot of us kind of felt that the AFC North could be a difficult road for the Steelers, and they're in a really good position now to win it.
Mike, the NFL says they don't script things, even though they made a joke with that commercial before the season. But week 18, Steelers and Ravens, that just always seems to work out.
Yeah, they don't script things, but they schedule things. And I'm pretty sure they had this potential scenario in mind when they scheduled this. I'm with Shelby. I want to see that game before the division. And I like what I saw from the Steelers yesterday. I think they're arriving at a place on both sides of the ball where they're finally starting to figure out how they have to proceed, and they're perfecting what they need to do to be good on both sides of the ball. But, I still remember the Cleveland game, and I am aware they only scored 1 touchdown yesterday, so I hate to sound like coach cliche here. I'll take them one at a time from here on out. But, man, I'm rooting for that story at the end. 2 trains, 1 track, and a division title at stake. That would be phenomenal theater.
All right, well, we'll start with Week 13 with the Cardinals coming to Acrisure Stadium. Guys, thanks so much for joining me to help break down the Steelers' victory over the Bengals. And thanks to you at home for watching the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We'll see everybody next Monday.